Self-investment is non-negotiable. That's the truth most people don't want to hear because it requires personal responsibility. It demands that you show up for yourself even when no one is watching, even when no one is applauding, and especially when it's uncomfortable. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of intentional decisions made consistently over time, often long before any rewards show up. If you're serious about leveling up, the first thing you need to realize is that no one is coming to do it for you. You are the plan. There's a difference between people who talk about wanting more and those who actually do something about it, and the difference is self-investment. The people who are actually progressing in business, in leadership, in life are constantly pouring into themselves. They're not waiting for someone else to train them, promote them, or hand them a roadmap. They go get the knowledge, they pay for the coaching, they sign up for the course, they find the mentor, they don't see investment as a cost, they see it as leverage. Because here's the thing, when you invest in yourself, you change what you're capable of, you change your skill set, you change your mindset, you expand your capacity. And when you expand your capacity, you become the person who can take on more responsibility, lead more people, and handle higher levels of opportunity. People think opportunity is a matter of luck. It's not. Opportunity is attracted to people who are ready. Self-investment is how you get ready. And let's talk about what self-investment actually looks like. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it's saying no to short-term pleasure to say yes to long-term progress. It's staying up an extra hour to study instead of binge watching Netflix. It's spending money on a business seminar instead of a new bag. It's choosing to listen to a podcast that pushes your thinking instead of scrolling through social media that numbs it. These are the choices that compound over time. No one sees it in the moment, but you feel it, and eventually, so does everyone else because your results will show it. Self-investment is also uncomfortable. That's how you know it's working. Growth and discomfort are inseparable. If you're only investing in the things you're already good at, you're not really growing, you're just reinforcing your comfort zone. Real self-investment means putting yourself in rooms where you feel like the smallest person. It means asking questions, being coachable, admitting you don't know something, and then doing the work to learn it. It's not about ego, it's about elevation. You can't outsource this, you can't delegate it, and there are no shortcuts. If you're building a career, building a business, building a life, and you're not actively, deliberately investing in your own development, you're building on sand. You have to become the asset. You are the most valuable resource in your life. The more valuable you become, the more value you can create for others. That's how you earn more, lead more, and influence more. But it starts with being willing to say, I matter enough to invest in. Some people think they can't afford to invest in themselves, but here's the truth, you can't afford not to. Stagnation costs more than any program or mentorship you're afraid to pay for. Playing small, staying stuck, not knowing how to lead your team, failing to communicate your value, those things have a much higher price tag in the long run. It's not about whether you have the resources, it's about whether you're resourceful. The people who get ahead find a way, they figure it out, they make it work, because they understand the ROI on self-investment is exponential. So the next time you're tempted to wait, to hesitate, to tell yourself, not right now, ask yourself, what is the cost of staying the same? What is the price of inaction? Where will I be 6 months from now if I don't invest in myself today? These are the real questions, and the answers are a mirror. If you're not where you want to be, self-investment isn't a luxury, it's the requirement. Self-investment isn't something you do once and check off the list. It's a lifestyle. It's the way you show up, the way you think, the way you make decisions. It's being relentlessly committed to your own growth, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient. Especially then, that's the power of self-investment. It doesn't just change what you know, it changes who you are. And when you change who you are, everything else changes too. Clarity creates momentum. Without it, you're just busy, spinning in circles, reacting instead of directing, working hard but not moving forward. Clarity is the spark that ignites focus. It's the anchor that keeps your energy aligned with your goals. It's the difference between being active and being effective. When you're clear on what you want, you stop second guessing, you stop hesitating, and you start executing. Most people are stuck not because they aren't capable, but because they're unclear. They say they want success, but they haven't defined what success actually means for them. They think they're aiming high, but they haven't chosen a specific target. So they get pulled in 10 different directions, saying yes to things that don't move the needle, wasting energy on distractions dressed up as opportunities. But when you get really clear on where you're going, your whole life starts to organize itself around that decision. Clarity gives you a filter. When you know your goal, decisions get simple, not always easy, but simple. You start asking better questions. Does this move me forward? Does this align with the future I'm building? Does this choice reflect the person I'm becoming? That level of intentionality changes everything. You stop needing other people to validate your path because your vision is strong enough to guide you. That's when you start gaining real traction, and it's not just about knowing what you want. It's about knowing why. The why fuels the discipline. It powers the consistency when things get hard, and they will. It's your clarity that keeps you grounded. Clarity doesn't mean you'll never feel uncertain again. It means that even in the midst of challenge, your direction is locked in. You don't let obstacles redefine your destination. You find a new route and keep moving. This is where most people lose momentum. They hit a bump, they get overwhelmed, and because they weren't clear to begin with, they start questioning everything. They pivot, they stall, they go backwards. But when you've done the work to get clear on your goals, your values, your priorities, momentum becomes natural because now you're not just working hard, you're working aligned. You've eliminated the fluff. You've removed the noise. Your focus becomes a laser. Clarity also empowers your communication. Whether you're leading a team, building a business, or advancing your career, your ability to clearly articulate where you're going and why it matters determines how well others can follow you. People don't rally around vague ideas, they follow conviction, they respond to certainty. If you want to create buy-in, if you want others to trust your leadership, start by getting clear yourself. One of the biggest myths is that clarity comes from thinking. It doesn't. Clarity comes from action. You don't figure everything out by waiting until it's perfect. You move, you test, you learn, you adjust. It's in the doing that things come into focus. You don't need to have all the answers before you start. You just need a clear enough direction to begin. Perfection is a trap. Progress is the goal. There's a point in every high achiever's journey where they realize they've outgrown their previous goals. That's a good thing. It means you've evolved, but that also means you need to revisit your clarity. You can't keep operating on yesterday's vision. Every new level requires a new level of focus. What got you here won't get you there. Clarity isn't a one-time thing. It's something you renew and refine as you grow. If you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or burned out, the first place to check is your clarity. Are you chasing something meaningful, or are you just going through the motions? Are you clear on what you need to do today to move closer to your goals, or are you just reacting to whatever shows up? Are your daily actions connected to a larger vision, or are they disconnected tasks that keep you busy but not fulfilled? The truth is, lack of clarity isn't a sign to slow down. It's a signal to pause, reflect, and realign. Take inventory of where your time is going, your energy. Get brutally honest about what's actually moving you forward versus what's keeping you comfortable. It takes courage to face that, but the payoff is massive, because once you clear out the clutter, you create space for momentum. Momentum is what changes lives. It's what builds confidence. It's what opens doors you couldn't see when you were buried in confusion. And the fastest path to momentum is clarity. So take the time, get specific, define the target, identify the next step. Say no to anything that doesn't serve that direction, because when you're clear, you're dangerous. You become a force that's no longer distracted, no longer doubting, no longer delayed. The clearer you are, the faster you move. The faster you move, the more results you create, and the more results you create, the more confident you become. That confidence feeds your belief, and belief is the fuel of high performance. All of it starts with clarity. That's the multiplier, that's the unlock, that's the momentum you've been waiting for, and it's yours to create. Ownership over outcomes is the mindset that separates average from exceptional. It's the point where you stop blaming, stop waiting, stop making excuses, and start taking full responsibility for everything in your life, whether it's going well or not. That's the shift. That's when everything changes, because when you take ownership, you take control. You stop looking at external circumstances as the reason you're not where you want to be, and you start asking, what can I do to change this? That question right there, that's the power move. People who win consistently and intentionally don't waste time pointing fingers. They're not spending their energy explaining why something wasn't their fault. They're not interested in playing the victim. They understand that even if something isn't their fault, it's still their responsibility to respond to it. That's leadership, that's maturity, that's the mindset required to operate at a high level. Ownership means you hold yourself to a higher standard and you don't need someone else to do it for you. You don't wait for accountability to be forced. You build it into your habits. You track your progress. You call yourself out. You take pride in your follow through, and when you fall short, you don't hide from it. You address it. You learn from it. You get better because of it. That's what builds trust, both with others and with yourself. Most people are waiting for the right time, waiting for their boss to notice them, waiting for their team to get it together, waiting for someone to hand them a plan, but ownership doesn't wait. Ownership builds, ownership leads, ownership asks, what part of this do I control? And then acts on that relentlessly. The people who rise fastest are the ones who stop waiting and start leading, right where they are with what they have. Owning your outcomes also means owning your growth. You don't get better by chance. You get better by choice, and that choice starts with deciding that your future is worth investing in, that your development is your job, that your performance is a reflection of your discipline, your attitude, your clarity, not your circumstances. Ownership isn't about being perfect. It's about being responsible for your direction and owning your role in the process. Here's the truth. People don't remember your excuses. They remember your results, and your results are the direct reflection of what you consistently choose to own or avoid. It's easy to take credit when things go well, but real ownership shows up when things don't, when the project falls apart, when the team misses the mark, when the numbers drop. That's when you find out who's really owning the outcome, and guess what? The people who own it are the ones who fix it. They don't wallow, they don't deflect, they get to work. There's a huge difference between saying it's not my fault and saying it's still my problem. You don't have to be at fault to be part of the solution. That mindset is rare, and that's why it's valuable. That's why people with ownership mindsets rise into leadership roles faster. That's why their businesses scale, their careers accelerate, and their influence grows. They're willing to take on more because they know how to carry it. Ownership also builds culture. When you show up with full responsibility, you set a standard, you model the behavior, you shift the energy of the room. Teams thrive when everyone owns their part, communication gets clearer, execution gets faster, trust gets stronger, and problems get solved instead of recycled. A culture of ownership is unstoppable because it eliminates the drama and replaces it with direction. And don't misunderstand, ownership isn't harsh. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about being powerful enough to say, this isn't where I want to be, and I'm going to do something about it. That's where your freedom lies. Blame gives your power away. Ownership gives it back. If you're feeling stuck, ask yourself, what am I pretending not to be responsible for? What outcome am I disappointed in, and where did I hand away the power to change it? That reflection is where momentum starts. You can't change what you don't claim, and you can't lead what you won't own. No one is coming to rescue you. That's not bad news, it's the best news because it means you don't have to wait. You can start today. You can shift into a mindset of ownership and start creating better outcomes immediately. Own your time, own your habits, own your energy, own your communication, own your development. Own your results. The most powerful people you'll meet aren't the loudest. They're the ones who quietly and confidently own their outcomes, day in and day out. They don't talk about what they're going to do. They show you what they've done. That's the standard, and the good news, that standard is available to you the moment you decide to claim it. Execution is greater than intention. Every time, having a vision, a goal, an idea, that's the easy part. Everyone has intentions. Everyone says they want to grow, to lead, to succeed. But the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not closed by thoughts or wishes. It's closed by action. What actually moves the needle is what gets done, not what's talked about, planned, or hoped for. You don't get credit for what you meant to do. You get results from what you actually follow through on. Too many people live in idea mode. They brainstorm, they dream big, they write lists, buy planners, talk about what they'll do someday. But they don't move, and that's the difference. Execution creates progress. Intention without execution is just noise. It feels productive because you're thinking about growth, but thinking alone doesn't get the work done. Action is what builds confidence. You don't become a high performer by having perfect plans. You become one by taking imperfect steps consistently. Execution doesn't mean you always get it right. It means you keep showing up, adjusting, and moving forward. You learn more from 1 hour of focused action than from 10 hours of overthinking, because clarity doesn't just come from thinking, it comes from doing. Execution is a skill, it's a muscle, it's built by discipline. You don't magically become someone who follows through. You train yourself to be that person, and the training happens in the small moments, the early morning when you'd rather sleep, but you get up and work anyway. The meeting where you speak up instead of holding back, the task you finish even when no one's checking, that's execution. It's not always loud or glamorous, but it's the foundation of every breakthrough. People love to wait for the right time. They want all the conditions to be perfect before they start, but high performers know the right time doesn't show up, it's created. You don't wait for motivation to act, you act your way into motivation. That shift is everything, because once you realize that consistent execution beats occasional inspiration, you stop relying on how you feel and start relying on your standards. And execution isn't just about getting a lot of things done. It's about getting the right things done. Focus is the force multiplier. Busyness is not productivity. If you're doing 50 things but none of them are aligned with your goals, that's not execution, it's distraction. Intentional execution is laser focused. It's ruthless about priorities. It says no to everything that doesn't serve the mission. Look at anyone who's built something meaningful and you'll see a pattern of relentless follow-through. It's not because they had the best ideas, it's because they refused to stop executing. They didn't get stuck in fear, in doubt, or in perfectionism. They took the next step, then the next, then the next. And that's how real momentum is created, not from waiting until you feel ready, but from moving while you figure it out. The truth is, intention feels good, it's comfortable, it lets you dream without risk. But execution exposes you, it holds you accountable, it reveals your habits, your gaps, your resistance. That's why most people avoid it. It's easier to stay in idea mode than to face the friction of action. But the friction is where growth lives. That discomfort is the cost of progress, and the people who lean into it are the ones who rise. You can tell how serious someone is by how consistently they execute. Talk is cheap, execution is expensive because it costs time, energy, effort, and commitment, but it pays off and results in confidence and in reputation. When people see that you don't just talk about big things, you do big things, they trust you. They follow you, they bet on you, because execution builds credibility. Your future isn't shaped by your intentions, it's shaped by your daily actions. What you do is who you are. Your habits are your identity in motion. So, if you're not happy with your current trajectory, don't change your intentions, change your execution. Audit your days. Where's your time going? What's actually getting done? What promises are you keeping to others and to yourself? And remember, you don't need to do everything at once. You just need to do the next right thing. Well and on time, that's execution. Showing up every day with clarity, consistency, and commitment. If you're overwhelmed, simplify. Strip it back to the essentials. You don't need more complexity. You need more follow through. That's where the wins live. No one changes their life with a perfect plan. They change it with consistent action. The people who finish the race aren't always the fastest. They're the ones who didn't stop running. So don't just be someone with good ideas. Be someone who executes, who shows up, who follows through. That's the real flex. That's where excellence is built, and that's the standard that turns vision into reality. Your environment shapes your execution more than you realize. You can have all the drive, all the ambition, all the intention in the world, but if your environment doesn't support it, your progress will always be harder than it needs to be. People love to talk about willpower, but here's the truth: willpower is limited. Environment, on the other hand, is constant. It influences your habits, your energy, your mindset, and your results every single day. The most disciplined people aren't relying on motivation. They've built an environment that reinforces their standards. Look around. Your space, your schedule, your systems, the people you're surrounded by, everything either supports or sabotages your execution. Nothing is neutral. The office that's disorganized, the team that's unclear, the constant distractions on your phone, the negative voice in the room, all of it chips away at your focus. And when focus goes, execution follows. High performers don't ignore the environment, they engineer it. They create conditions where execution is not just possible, but inevitable. If you want to execute at a high level, your environment needs to match your ambition. That means designing spaces that invite productivity, structuring your calendar around your highest priorities, and being intentional about who gets access to your time and energy. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are only as strong as the environment they operate in. Let's talk about people. The people around you matter a lot. If you're trying to elevate and you're surrounded by people who don't hold the same standard, you're fighting an uphill battle every day. Not because you're weak, but because environment is powerful. Culture is contagious. If your team tolerates low effort, excuses, missed deadlines, guess what becomes the norm? On the flip side, when you're in a room full of people who are executing, growing, stretching, leading, you level up just by being in proximity. Energy is transferable. You need people in your environment who challenge you, who hold you accountable, who expect more from you than you might expect from yourself. That kind of environment doesn't make you comfortable, it makes you better. And that's the point. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Execution doesn't thrive in complacency. You want a culture that rewards follow through, that celebrates progress, that recognizes discipline, not just talk. Your physical environment matters too. Clutter creates chaos. Distraction kills clarity. You don't need $1 million setup, but you do need to be intentional. Do your tools work? Is your space optimized for focus? Are you building in buffers for deep work, or are you letting every ping and notification hijack your momentum? Every small friction adds up. The more mental energy you waste managing chaos, the less capacity you have for execution. Time is part of your environment. If your calendar is a mess, your priorities will be too. High execution requires structured time, not rigid, but clear. You need to know when your most important work is happening, and you need to protect that time like it matters. Because it does. The best performers don't let their day happen to them. They own it, they run it, they decide what gets in and what doesn't. That's not controlling, it's committed. And don't underestimate emotional environment. Your mindset doesn't exist in a vacuum. If the atmosphere you live or work in is filled with stress, doubt, criticism, or drama, it will drain your energy and dull your execution. You have to be the curator of your environment. Protect your peace, guard your focus. If it costs your clarity, it's too expensive. That doesn't mean avoid hard conversations or challenges, but it does mean refusing to normalize negativity or chaos as a way of operating. The good news is, you don't need a total life overhaul to create a powerful environment. You just need awareness and intentionality. Start small, declutter your workspace, block time for your deep work. Aud it your circle, upgrade your systems, communicate expectations, raise the standard. Execution is not about doing more, it's about creating space to do the right things with excellence and consistency. Look at any elite performer, and you'll see a deliberate environment behind the scenes. It's not accidental. It's designed to support the level they play at, and the same can be true for you. Stop waiting to feel more motivated. Start building an environment that makes execution the default, because when your environment supports your vision, discipline becomes easier, focus becomes sharper, and momentum becomes natural. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if your environment is out of alignment, you'll always be in conflict. Your standards will clash with your surroundings, your goals will feel harder than they should. And you'll wonder why consistency feels so elusive, but when your environment matches your mission, everything changes, execution accelerates, discipline becomes automatic, and your results finally start to reflect your true potential. The bottom line is this: your environment isn't just influencing your execution, it's shaping it every day, so shape it on purpose, build it to win, because high-level execution isn't about trying harder, it's about setting yourself up to succeed. Relentlessly, intentionally, without apology,